from Olympic Stadium in Montreal, it's ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. Tonight, National League champion Philadelphia and slugging catcher Darren Daulton take on the Montreal Expos and 352 hitter Moises Alou. It's the ESPN Sunday Night Game of the Week. Monday night, Jeff Fassero took his shot at no-hit fame. For 8 2/3 innings, he dominated the Pirates. But then in this Carlos Garcia line drive, the no-hitter literally slipped out of his hand. Jay Bell then homered, and Fassero had to settle for just the win. Tonight, it's Fassero back on the hill as the Expos try to prevent a sweep at the hands of the Phillies. Sunday Night Baseball tonight from Canada. The National League champion Philadelphia Phillies and les Expos de Montreal. The standings in the National League East. Atlanta got clobbered again by Cincinnati today, and so the Expos, with the second best record in all of the Major League Baseball, could move to within 2.5. The Phillies, well, they're in the middle of the pack, except this year there's a new division, the wild card division. The Expos are leading that right now, followed by Houston, and then St. Louis, Philadelphia, Florida, all bunched up. The Phillies can move into third place in the wild card division with a victory here tonight. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller, along with Joe Morgan, your wild card experts. Now, the Philadelphia Phillies had a great year last year. They went all the way to the World Series. What an exciting year it was. What an exciting ball club. But this year's been a bad season. But all of a sudden this weekend, it's been like old times. They scored 6 runs in the 8th inning Friday to come from behind. They'd been trailing 6-1 at one point. And last night, they just jumped on them early and won big. Now, tonight, they go for the sweep. And they're without Len Dykstra, though. They've got some injury problems, and he's always been a key man for him.
Well, he has been a key, but just like last Sunday, we're talking about the people that the Phillies are missing, but the one constant is Darren Daulton. He is still the key factor as far as I'm concerned with this Philly ball club. He's always there. This is a double Friday night that culminated that 6-run rally that won the ball game for them. And now they're going to make another change tonight. Mariano Duncan's going to get a chance to play third base on a regular basis. I think this is a good, smart thing for the Phillies because he can add something with his bat, and I think he'll be adequate over there defensively.
All right, they need some help there because Dave Hollins is on the disabled list, and Duncan's got 40 RBIs. Now, the Expos, they have been on a tear of late. They've scored 7 runs a game in the last 3 weeks, led by Moises Alou, who is blossoming into a superstar in the National League. Just this past Friday, he hit a 3-run homer in the first inning, and in the last 12 games, he has 22 RBIs and 17 runs scored. He's a one-man wrecking crew.
Well, he's gotten better each year, and he says he's going to continue to get better because he loves the game. But one of the reasons, again, is the fact that he's driven in all these runs because Marquise Grissom has been moved from the 3rd slot back to the 1st slot, and he is on a record pace of scoring runs. But Moises Alou, they did not know for sure how healthy he was going to be at the beginning of the season. He's very healthy, and they're alive and well here in Montreal.
Sort of underappreciated around the country. They're kind of hidden here in Montreal. They're the youngest team in baseball, but one of the most talented, and we'll get a good look at them here tonight. Jeff Fassero, almost a no-hitter last Monday. Tonight, he'll try and be the stopper as they face the Phillies. Stay tuned. The Expos and Phillies coming up. Sunday Night Baseball from Olympic Stadium, Montreal. Not a very big crowd so far. People still coming into the ballpark. It's very hot and humid indoors here. We'll talk about that a little bit. The Phillies, who last year led the National League in runs scored, and they're just in the middle of the pack so far this year. Part of the struggles for Jim Fregosi and his ball club coming back from their National League championship. Now with Dykstra out of the lineup, Billy Hatcher, the veteran, starts in center field. Mariano Duncan having a great year at third base. John Kruk hitting the ball well when he's able to play at first base. Pete Incaviglia, left field, starting to get hot when he's been able to play. Darren Daulton, the catcher, 4 hits last night. Tony Longmire in right field, and in there against a lefty tonight because of the injuries to Jordan. Stocker, the shortstop, Morandini at second, and Munoz is on the hill. And pitching for the Phillies, almost a no-hitter Monday, there is Jeff Fassero. And Joe, some think maybe he's blossoming into one of the best left-handers in the National League.
Well, he's pitched very, very well. Look at the numbers. The hits to innings pitch ratio is really good. Base on balls to strikeout, very good. He's showing that he is one of the top left-handers going right now.
So here we go. Facero throws pretty hard, but keeps the ball down. Generally has pretty good control. Here is Billy Hatcher. And a 91-mile-an-hour fastball is in there for strike one.
John, we'll get a look at him tonight, and the one thing that's important is to remember when he's down in the strike zone, he still has good velocity. That's very important.
And that one misses for a ball. 1 ball and 1 strike.
You've heard me talk on several occasions about when a pitcher releases the ball high, the high fastball will give you the highest miles per hour count. Well, if you have a very good fastball, it's also very quick down in the strike zone, and that's what Facero has.
And right to the first baseman, Floyd. Billy Hatcher is out, number 1. Jeff Facero, we talked to him this week. Said, tell us about your repertoire.
I just throw a fastball or a sinker, 2-seam, which runs away from a right-hander, and then I'll go to a 4-seamer to throw it into a right-hander. My other pitch is a slider, which is gripped off center of the ball, and I use that primarily for an out pitch to a left-hander, and then I'll throw a fork ball where I split the ball in half, throw it like this, and this is my out pitch to a right-hander.
Well, very good repertoire of pitches, and he knows what he wants to do on all the occasions.
He gets a couple of strikes here to Duncan. Maybe we'll see that split-figured pitch. Mariano Duncan hitting .280, 6 home runs and 40 driven in, which is second best on the club.
Duncan had a very good year offensively last year for the Phillies as well. He has become a very good hitter in the last few years.
I always used to think of him as a glove man. Came up with the Dodgers and filled a hole at shortstop when they won a division title back in 1985. But over the years, he's blossomed into a very fine hitter, and he plays all over the place for the Phillies. Second, short, third, even the outfield.
He reminds me of Tony Phillips of the Detroit Tigers with not as much power as Tony. Tony being a switch hitter, of course. Duncan was a switch hitter earlier in his career, but now he strictly hits from the right side.
Well, he drove in 73 runs last year, so not too bad. 3-0 the count. And on 4 pitches, he has walked, which is unusual. He rarely walks. Duncan takes first. That'll bring up Kruk.
And let's take a look at the Expos defensively. They have one of the best outfield in all of baseball. And Cliff Floyd over at first base has developed into an excellent first baseman. And they think that he's really kind of similar to Steve Garvey. Really saves a lot of errors with his scoops out of the dirt. And that's especially important to Will Cordero.
Here's John Kruk. What are you saying about Cordero?
Well, he's made a lot of errors early, but he's starting to come around a little bit now. But he has been...
Are you saying he's a little erratic with his throws?
Erratic.
Here now is John Kruk. Slider. Did he swing? Yes. Jeffrey Kellogg, the third base umpire, says strike one. And John Kruk is astounded by this.
Well, John, until last year, watch him bail out here. Until the Randy Johnson incident in the All-Star game, I don't remember seeing John Kruk bail out quite as much. We see Bruce Fromming is very upset already at somebody saying knock it off.
In the Phillies dugout. Well, right. Maybe that man.
I don't think it was Fregosi, because I don't think Fregosi would have stood for that, to be perfectly honest with you. He would have something, someone else on the bench probably was questioning, you know, the call by Kellogg at third base.
Veteran umpire Bruce Fromming.
And Bruce is always in charge of the game. Make no mistake about it. When it's his game, he's in charge.
Runner at first, 1 out. 1 strike to count to Kruk. And this could be 2. There's 1. Cordero back to first. Double play. And down go the Phillies. Marquise Grissom, Cliff Floyd, and Moises Alou will be coming up. No scores. Felipe Alou's Montreal Expos get ready to come to bat. And what a club they have proven to be so far this year. And they have really begun to sizzle with the bats as the weather has heated up. In the month of June, you see there, 313 team batting average in the first 18 days of the month, and scoring better than 7 runs a game. Marquise Grissom, it's about the time he began hitting leadoff. He's in center. Cliff Floyd, first base. Moises Alou, who just exploded on the scene in a superstar fashion. Larry Walker having a very strong year, right field. Darren Fletcher, the catcher, hitting well. Wilfredo Cordero, the shortstop, hitting well. Tito Bell at second base. Sean Barry at third base. Both of them have not been playing much lately. And Jeff Becerro is the pitcher, batting ninth. On the hill for the Phillies, the big right-hander, Bobby Munoz, acquired from the Yankees in the Terry Mulholland deal.
And you can take a look at his earned run average. He's pitched very well since he's been put back into the rotation. Good fastball, changeup, and his key is if he throws strikes. When he throws strikes, he's been effective. I saw him pitch a game in Chicago on Memorial Day, and he was excellent on that occasion, throwing strikes and getting out in front of the hitters.
Well, they'll have to face Marquise Grissom now. A good man to keep off the base paths if you can do it. Hitting .288, 6 homers, 28 batted in, 23 steals. And right now, he has taken over the league leadership in runs scored. He scored 60. He moves back to that one. 1 ball and 1 strike. And he's not just scored 60 for the year, but lately, he's been scoring 2 or 3 times a night. Look at that. 21 runs scored the last 9 games. Popped up foul through a maze of speakers and wires and then back in amongst the spectators.
I talked to him before the game, and a lot of people say, well, he really got hot when they moved him from third back to the leadoff spot where he has hit a lot in his career. But he said really that was kind of a coincidence. He said what really happened is he stopped experimenting. He said he was experimenting with a lot of stances, a lot of swings, doing a lot of different things in the batter's box. He says now he is not experimenting anymore. He's just going up and hitting.
Seems to work. 2-2. Popped him up. Stocker, the shortstop. And there is 1 away.
The Phillies have really not been a real good defensive team the last couple of years, and especially on the infield. Before Stocker came, they had trouble at shortstop. Now the problem's over at third, and Mariano Duncan is going to be the latest to try to hold down the hot corner. As we all know, Hollins is not going to return to third base, and look at that, they've had 18 errors from the third baseman so far this year. That's tough.
And ball 1 to Cliff Floyd. Floyd's a great big huge fellow, but he runs extremely well, and he kind of looks like a first baseman because he's so huge, 6 feet 4 inches tall. But right now he's a guy who hits the ball to left field a lot, and he also has excellent speed. And Felipe Alou says that although he's done very well at becoming a very good first baseman, he could be a Gold Glover in center field. He's that good an athlete.
Well, he reminds me a lot of Dave Parker, and the things you said about him at the beginning reminds me of Dave Parker. Big guy, runs well, and really just going to get better as he goes along. Dave Parker, when he first came up, didn't hit for a lot of power, hit a lot of balls the other way, but developed into a real power hitter.
That's foul. Well, he's been working with Tommy Harper. Great baseball man and a very fine player in his own right for many years. Tommy is now the hitting instructor for the Expos. Tommy said, hey, Cliff, there's Tommy. You're a big, strong guy. Let's work on going the other way. Let's not try to pull everything right now because you're so big and strong, the home runs will come. Let's work on just being a good, solid hitter right now, making contact.
And I think that's a great idea, John, for 2 reasons. One, it'll keep you from really pulling off and being a one-alley hitter. You go the other way, you'll just develop into using the entire field.
Oh, they play him straight away, all the way around. The outfielders are dead straight away. The only man in the entire field playing him to pull at all is the shortstop Stocker. There you see him a little bit over toward the middle. 3-2 the count. He struck him out.
Good pitch by Munoz. Down and in, off the plate. 85-mile-an-hour slider. And watch this pitch come down and in. You'll see the rotation on it. See its slider, rotation right under the bat of Clifford Floyd. I figured I'd make that mistake before the evening was over.
Here is Moises Alou. 352, third in the league, 12 homers, 46 runs batted in. I mentioned it at the top of the telecast, but it bears repeating because it's so astounding what he's been doing lately. There's ball 1, fastball missing. In his last 12 games, 22 RBIs and 17 runs scored. Plus the 7 home runs. If you subtract that means 32 runs produced in 12 games, Joe. I mean, there are some teams that are going to in there. Duncan, I don't think had a play on him anyway.
No, it was going to be a base hit. And I talked to him before the game, and I asked him, you know, what would he say? He's 80%, 90%, and he's fluctuated between 80 and 90. It's a slider down the way, hits the top of it. Duncan charges. It's just a tough play for a season. You see the ball hit the crease and bounce actually back to Duncan's right, away from his glove, but it was still going to be a very difficult play for him to throw Moises Alou out.
2 down. Alou reaches, and here is Larry Walker.
I scored it as a base hit, John.
Then that's the way the official score is scored.
Okay. Well, we're on the same wavelength so far tonight. I've had a strikeout and an infield hit. We're correct.
I would never argue with you here in Montreal. Tebel Josez, that is where we go, they say. 1 strike to count to Larry Walker. Walker is hitting .289, 9 home runs, and he also has 29 doubles, which leads the National League. 46 driven in, and also probably leads the league in trade rumors.
Yeah,
his name is mentioned,
and that has affected him, John. He feels like, you know, he's Canadian, and he feels like, well, are they going to trade me or not? And that has to play on your mind, walking in every day reading stories about where you're going and who wants you. It's good to be wanted, but he also likes playing here in Montreal.
1-1 the count, 2 down. Ball 2, 2-1, no score in the game. There's Rondell White. Now, he is a guy they think is going to be a big star one day. That's what he's been doing so far at Ottawa this year, although there are extenuating circumstances. He's disappointed in those numbers. But the feeling is that Walker's going to be leaving anyway as a free agent at the end of the year, and Rondell White is waiting in the wings to step in. Broken bat, it sounded like. Munoz, who is 6 feet 7 inches tall, hauled that one down. That's the inning. 1 hit, 1 left. In Cavilla, Dalton, and Longmire coming up. No score. Don Miller, Joe Morgan from Montreal. Sunday night baseball. No score after 1 inning. The Phillies trying to get a sweep up here. Pete Incaviglia leads off against Jeff Becerro. The slider misses for ball 1. Incaviglia hitting .254. He's got 10 home runs, 22 batted in. Platoon bases. He's averaged 1 home run every 13.8 at bats. Not too bad. Similar to what he did last year. Not be handled by Sean Barry. And we'll see how the scorer calls it. But I think, Joe, there goes the no-hitter.
Well, we'll see. That was right down the line.
Well, how would you have scored it?
They called it a base hit. Take a look at this. Out in front of the fastball. It's a sinker. It's out in front. Well, I think he should have caught the ball, John. On AstroTurf, the ball bounces true, and that was a true hop. Now watch, it's a true hop. It's right there. I think the problem was he was running away from it down the line. But we'll score the base hit as well.
Here is Darren Dalton. And that was the call played up by Bruce Fremming. In English, what he said was, strike 1. He asked us on this Father's Day to say hello to his niece, Susan, and her husband, Mark. They're visiting from Alaska, and they're looking in tonight. I guess they're at the Fremming home. Bruce Fremming. I don't know where Bruce is on Father's Day every year. Just we'll find a ballpark somewhere. 1 ball, 1 strike to Darren Dalton, the big slugger. Centerpiece of this ball club. Dalton, 289, 13 homers, 47 driven in, and in there every day. They said this year we think we'll give him more days off. Hasn't happened.
And it's not going to happen very often either.
That slider misses.
When you have a player of his caliber, even though he's a catcher and you know he needs some days off, you still feel like 80 or 90% of Darren Dalton is better than most players that you can put behind the plate. So you end up continuing to put him in there. Like I said, I saw that situation with Johnny Bench. I mean, he probably should have had more days off, but it's hard not to put his name in the lineup.
You see the jugs gun. Trying to get a handle on what Jeff Becerro is, how hard he's throwing with his various pitches. He doesn't like that new baseball. He'll ask for another one. By the way, the second base umpire, as we're talking about the umpires and their families, Larry Pansino, There he is. Wanted us to say happy Father's Day to his father, Louis, who is battling cancer in a hospital in the Yucca Valley in California right now. Larry wanted to be remembered to his dad, and we too send along all of our best wishes to Louis Poncino out there in the Yucca Valley. And with 2-2 to count.
There are a lot of people on the Phillies who are flashy and who get a lot of publicity. Dykstra for the way that he plays, Kruk for his personality, and Incavilla. These guys are personalities. But this is the guy. I mean, Dalton is a stabilizing influence. He's the guy that's there every day, and he's the guy that you can pencil certain things in every year, and he's going to get the job done.
This is their 69th game. It is the 62nd time that he has started at the catcher. No score, second inning. Nobody out. Runner at first. To the left field and past Alou. It will roll to the wall. Grissom chases it down. Being waved home is Incavilla. Here comes the relay. It's offline. And the Phillies lead 1-0. Dalton ends up at second.
That's one of those in-between plays. You're not sure you can catch it, but you think you should give it a try. It's actually real good hitting by Dalton because it looked like the pitch was away, and he just went the other way with it. Let's take a look at it. Looks like a fastball away, and Dalton just slaps it to left field. Now, Lou can't get there. He just takes a dive for it, and the ball gets by him, and before Grissom can retrieve it, Incavilla comes in to score.
So a double for Dalton. His 16th and his 48th run batted in. 1-0 for the Phillies now, and here is Tony Longmire, left-handed hitter. Pops the bunt up, but it drops. And Pissarro was tagging anybody in the vicinity there. He tagged Cliff Floyd, although it truly was inadvertent, and then he tagged Longmire as well, and Dalton makes it down to third base. Not exactly the way you teach the bunt, though.
No, and not only that, either you drag the ball, try to beat it out for a base hit, or you're supposed to bunt it down the third base line. He pops it up, so he gets away with it, but Pissarro off the mound quickly over and tags Longmire out.
So now a runner at third base with one away, and here is Kevin Stocker, one of the heroes last year in the stretch run for the Phillies and in the postseason. At 324 for the Phillies after being called up after the All-Star break.
And the Expos are going to play the infield halfway. Now they creep in, so they're not going to allow Dalton to score on a routine ground ball to the infield.
Now, does that surprise you?
No, simply because with one out, I believe that why give away a run? You're already down 1-0. Why just give away a run? But make them earn it.
It also makes it easier for Stocker to get a hit, though.
Yeah, but you're also at the bottom of the batting order, and you're not just sacrificing, giving a run away.
So if this was, say, the second place hitter up, maybe it's not a good idea.
Right, because then you're going to the middle of the lineup.
All right. See, now I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. Well, you should know I had my reasons. I
thought you had lost your senses there for a second. 1 ball, 1 strike for Stocker. I know that you work hard all week, and your mind is 1,000 places, John.
Yeah.
1 ball, 1 strike to Kevin Stocker. Mickey Morandini is on deck. Why not just walk Stocker? You get the left-handed batting Morandini, maybe hits a double play and the inning's over.
Well, that may be true, but you don't want to put extra men on base as well, especially on an AstroTurf field, because we just saw anything in the gaps will score the runner from first base. I think you have to play a little differently on AstroTurf than you do on natural turf, because balls hit in the gaps will always score runners from first base on AstroTurf, not so on natural turf.
It's foul. Right to the near corner of the Philadelphia dugout. The dugouts are real close here. They put up screens in front of the dugouts because it was hazardous. They moved home plate back toward the backstop to make the park a little more intimate. Formerly, there was no ballpark that was less intimate than this one. Now, the fans down there in those close rows are very close to the action, which is a definite improvement in here. 1-0 Phillies, and there's a runner at third with 1 out. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Stocker. And the breaking ball misses inside. 2-2 now. It's been real hot here in Montreal. got into the high 90s here yesterday and also Friday. And they have no air conditioning inside. There you see how close they've moved the stands in here. But it has been hot and humid inside this ballpark. It's been almost like a sauna for a couple of days here. Now you see the infield, how they're playing. Well, that'll hold the runner. Throws out Stocker.
Well, the reason you do not just give away a run, if you're playing back on this play and that routine ground ball just drives in a run, so at least you make them earn it. That's the philosophy that Felipe Alou obviously had in that situation, and naturally I agree with it. The one thing I wanted to point out there, they were playing very shallow for Stocker in the outfield, and what you have to remember is that the ball's traveling very well here when it's hot inside. Nice play there by Barry. He holds Dalton and then throws to first base to retire Stocker.
Here is Mickey Morandini.
All right, now here's back to your question. Why not walk him and pitch to the pitcher? I don't agree with that either. I think you have to go after him.
Well, I think, here we go, Joe. If he was a right-handed hitter,
right, then
they would.
Yes, you're right.
But this way, they have a chance to exploit the percentage. You see how they're back in normal depth now.
Right.
If they get him out, the pitcher will lead off the next inning. It will have residual benefits. How'd I do?
You did pretty well, except I'm not, I don't worry about next inning if the guy can hurt you.
If you, okay, the guy can hurt you.
Right.
But he's a left-handed hitter. I don't think
so they figure that they can.
Well, now they're going to walk him. It's 2-0. They are going to walk him intentionally with Munoz on deck. Once they fell behind him, that changed the equation a little bit.
I agree, and I agree with this again. Well, you know, last night Danny Jackson was pitching and he drove in 5 runs.
Yeah. This was Jackson that just brought in Butch Henry to face it with the bases loaded, and he ripped one almost 400 feet and cleared the bases with a triple. And then later in the game, he did it again. All told, Jackson a double and a triple and 5 runs batted in. So now here is Munoz with runners at first and third, 2 down. Here is the first pitch, and it's a ground ball, base hit into right field. The throw to first by Walker, 2, and just barely because the ball was dropped over there. Floyd dropped the ball, and I'd like to see what that call would have been had he held it.
Yeah, it was going to be a close play at first base. And we'll watch. Munoz hits the ball into right field. Now Floyd starts for it momentarily. Now he backs up. Here comes Walker charging. He's done this a lot this year, throwing back to first base, trying to retire.
Well, he would have had him. What do you think?
Well, he can't really. It was close, John.
It'll be scored as a hit and a run batted in for Munoz. Morandini stopping at second, and it is 2-0. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe in San Francisco very early in the season, Walker threw out one of the John Burkett, that's right, the pitcher of the Giants at first base on a play just like that. 3 different times he has thrown out a batter at first base on an apparent single to right field. The batter, Billy Hatcher. Up the middle, base hit. Here comes Morandini. Here comes Grissom's throw. Offline, handcuffing the catcher, skipping past him. The runners will advance. Munoz takes third, and Hatcher goes to second. And the Phillies have 3 runs home. Single and an RBI and Hatcher, then they'll have to charge an error, and I would guess to Grissom, because the throw got past the catcher Fletcher.
Well, this ball is hit directly back through the box. There you see the split finger. Well, it's not a split finger, it's a fork ball. He grounded right back through the middle. Now Grissom comes up firing. He actually had a shot at the plate on Morandini. Now watch, the ball actually arrives about the same time, but it bounces away, so he will be charged with an error.
In fact, Joe, we understand Duncan takes strike one. I don't think this is right. They have charged the error to the catcher.
Well, they may be concerned the fact he didn't get down and block it. Maybe but normally that error goes to the outfielder for the throw.
And that's a ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. 3 runs in for the Phillies here. 2 since the intentional walk. And Mariano Duncan, the reason he's got 40 RBIs and had 73 last year, look at that. This is his kind of situation. He has been at his best in the clutch. Chance here to break this game open in the 2nd inning.
Only because things have backfired in this inning with the intentional walk. I think they're pitching to Duncan, because you may be better off walking Duncan and pitching to Kruk, because he hasn't played every day as he has in the past, and he has not played as often against left-handed pitching this year. And the way he looked his first at bat, I would say that Facero has a better odds of getting him out than he does Duncan.
In a double play his first time. And that is a base hit left center field. It will roll to the wall. Munoz scores. Hatcher scores. And a 2-run double for Duncan. It is 5-0 Philadelphia. The fans are not happy. The Phillies doing it again to the Expos.
Well, it's a fastball. Well, no, it's a slider. Looks like down and away. Good hitting there by Duncan. He goes out, and watch him. He goes out and gets this ball. Look at pitches down, and he goes out and gets it and lines it up the gap in left center field. Good hitting there by Duncan. And there's Joe Kerrigan, the pitching coach, out talking to Facero. Phillies have scored 5 here in the 2nd inning, and most have come after there were 2 outs.
Well, the Phillies, they scored 6 in the 8th inning, and most of them against the top 2 relievers the Expos possess, Mel Rojas and John Wetland, 2 of the best relievers in the league. And last night, they pounded everybody. The starter, the relievers. They scored 8 times. They strike to Kruk. And now here they're doing it to Facero.
Well, the important thing for Facero is to give them some innings, because, as you mentioned, they used a lot of pitchers the last couple of ball games, so they're trying to, you know, get Facero to rest the bullpen tonight. So far, it doesn't look like he's going to get that far.
Well, the bullpen has pitched 12 innings in the 2 games of this series, including 8 last night. And Felipe Alou said we really need, realistically, to get 7 innings at least out of Facero tonight. 5 runs on the board in the 2nd inning. And right to the shortstop, Wilfredo Cordero. The inning has ended. They bat around 9 batters, 5 runs scored. 5-0 Phillies. Professor Morgan.
Well, John, since today is Father's Day, let's take a look at the famous father and son. Here's Felipe Alou. Let's show you the difference. Felipe does not push his hands away. He steps in, which makes him muscle the ball through the strike zone. Watch, here's more of a muscle swing right there. See, it's no extension, just muscles the bat through the hitting zone. Moises, on the other hand, pushes his bat away, gets good turn, and he throws the bat at the ball right through the hitting zone. Right about here. Pretty good extension there. Now he just throws the bat at the ball. So a little difference in styles there, but they're very similar in build, and they hit the ball the same, hard.
The Alou family, a baseball dynasty. Phillies 5, Expos nothing as Darren Fletcher stands in against Bobby Munoz, and the count goes to 0-2.
And one thing to remember, the Expos have been really scoring a lot of runs here in June, and Fletcher and Webster have really given them a big boost, you know, from the catching spot. They both hit well, and the rest of the Expos have hit well. So this game is far from being over. 5-0 against the Expos in the 2nd is not a safe lead.
Right to the second baseman, Morandini. And Fletcher is retired. 1 gone in the 2nd, and that will bring up Wilfredo Cordero. Another guy's hitting the ball well. The Expos have a team batting average of 277, and they're averaging 5 runs a game for the whole year. And of course, as we showed you, they've been averaging 7 runs a game the last 3 weeks. Here is Cordero. He's hitting 282, 6 homers, 30 batted in. The Expos have pretty good speed, even though Grissom, hitting 3rd, was not stealing many bases. He's stealing a lot more now that he's hitting 1st. And of course, they lost Delino to Shields in the big trade with the Dodgers. But they have stolen 78 bases in 66 games, so it's still part of their repertoire. 1 ball and no strikes to Cordero. Hammer pulled down the left field line. It will go to the wall. And Cavilla gets a bad hop. He's got to chase it. And Cordero has his 16th double of the year.
And John, like a lot of young players, when you're hitting well, you usually play well in the field. And that's what Cordero has been doing lately. He's started to play much better in the field as well as hitting the ball hard. This is a solid line drive. A pitch that was up in the strike zone, and Cordero just rakes it into the corner. It hit so hard that then Cavillo could not run it down. Wasn't hit that far from him, but watch that hop. It just bounces right past him.
So that'll bring up Tito Bell, younger brother of George Bell. Slugger, formerly with the Blue Jays, and then with the White Sox. Spent a year with the Cubs. And Juan, or Tito, as George likes to call it, has hit .294 in limited action. He has not played much lately. Played a lot of second base here for a while. And he takes a strike. 1-1 the count. Basically need a run here. The Phillies are leading 5-0. An explosion against Jeff Fassero. Again, this is the Phillies that we saw last year. They just clobbered some teams. Great offense. And the pitch misses. And that's what they've done this weekend. 10 runs Friday, 6 in the 8th inning. 8 runs last night, 4 in the 2nd inning. And now a 5-run 2nd inning tonight.
What the Expos have to do is try to get one at a time, or get one here, one there, until they add up to 5. They don't have to get them all back at once here in the 2nd inning.
The Phillies have been vulnerable to left-handed pitching this year, which, of course, going into this game against Fassero, has been one of the best left-handers around. He wouldn't have given much for the Phillies' chances. But now they've put 5 on the board against Fassero. Fassero has not had any game this year, full game, where he has allowed, or now I have to say past tense, where he had allowed more than 4 earned runs. Now he gives up 5 in 1 inning. 2-2 to Bell.
When you talk about the Phillies not doing well against left-handers, one of the reasons is they had faced like 21 straight right-handers before they got the 3 left-handers here. I was standing here thinking, I said, that's the 3rd strike. Why are they standing there? I guess Cordero lost count of Bell lost track of the count. I know Fleming didn't.
Well, the scoreboard had it at 2-2, and I guess Bell wanted to go with that. I was willing to go with that. 2 down. Bell down on strikes. 2nd strikeout for Munoz. And here is Sean Berry. Berry hitting .269. But he has lost his everyday job. Earlier this year, he was the everyday 3rd baseman. And Mike Lansing was the everyday 2nd baseman. Now Lansing, although he's getting a rest tonight, is playing every day, but sometimes at 2nd, sometimes at 3rd. And Barry sometimes sits out. But in for a ball. 2-0 the count. What's interesting, Munoz was acquired in the deal with the Yankees that sent Terry Mulholland to New York. And of course, Mulholland, the veteran, the Phillies, the players hated to see him go, especially Darren Dalton. Munoz, meanwhile, the Yankees hated to see him go. They thought this guy had a great arm and was quite a prospect. And so far, Munoz is pitching pretty well for the Phillies, but Mulholland has just been a total bust with the Yanks. He again got routed today. He blew a 4-1 lead at Yankee Stadium. There's a strike, 3-1, and his earned run average for the Yankees is 6.27, which just doesn't figure because he's pitching at Yankee Stadium. He's always been a reliable pitcher. Sean Berry, not noted as a run producer. Mason Camino run here. They'd like to get one while they've got the chance. Trailing 5-0. The pitcher, Fassero, on deck. Duncan. And that's the inning. So the Phillies batted around the last time. Now they'll have the same guys coming up in Cavilla and Dalton. 5-0 Phil. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is brought to you by the more than 800 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. And we want to remind you that after 72 holes of golf at the U.S. Open, still no winner. ESPN will bring you first tee coverage tomorrow morning at 10 of the three-man playoff between Lauren Roberts, Ernie Els, and Colin Montgomery from the Oakmont Country Club. 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN. Pete Incaviglia, Alfredo Cordero, and just like that, Incaviglia is retired. One away. That'll bring up Darren Daulton. He's made a transformation the last 3 years. We asked him how he did it as a hitter.
3 or 4 starts I had prior to that, I was struggling in the 4th and 5th inning, and Joe.
Sorry, Joe. I punched up the wrong guy.
Yeah, you punched the wrong one, John.
Darren Daulton, he doubled home a run in the first inning, or in the second inning, his first at bat. And I wondered, what did he do that changed him from just a mediocre player to a very fine one? And he did tell us, Joe.
Darren, perform at a level that your body allows you to, you're going to be able to do it. If you can't do that, and you go out there and you're searching to find it, that's tough. And, you know, I played with that for a while and actually thought that that's the way it was going to be for the rest of my career. But, you know, I had some more operations done, and it seems like the more I've had, the better I've been able to play.
So it's hitting success via surgery, Joe. That's the key.
Well, one of the points I wanted to make tonight, and that does it for me, is that modern medicine is really great. I mean, look at Moises Alou. You know, he had a fractured fibula and a dislocated ankle in September of last year, September 16th to be exact. Now, here he is back starring again. We talk about how much the players work to get back, but modern medicine gives them the opportunity to work to get back. So a lot of people thought Moises was going to miss maybe even half the season.
2-2, or Daulton, that was the 1-2 pitch. He is down on strikes.
Now, John, you're getting just like some of these players, forgetting how many strikes there are on the hitter.
I'm trying to get the right button punch up here, Joe.
This is a good fastball from Facero right in under the hands, and Daulton, protecting the outside part of the plate, gets fired up inside.
Here's Tony Longmire, had a sacrifice bunt his first time. And it is ball 1. 5-0 Phillies. We're in the top of the 3rd here. A 5-run second for the Phillies against that man, Jeff Facero. Facero gave up 4 runs in a game against Houston, June 8th. That's the most he had given up, most earned runs he'd had 3 games where he'd given up 3 runs. Only one time this year had he allowed more than 3 earned runs in a game until tonight. Back in April, he did give up 6 runs in a game at Colorado, but only 2 of them were earned. Right to Floyd. He'll take it himself. Retiring Longmire. The Phillies go down quietly. We go to the last of the 3rd inning. Facero will be leading it off. Then Grissom will follow. 5-0 Phillies. Sunday Night Baseball from Montreal. 5-0. The Phillies leading the Expos. This is John Miller along with Joe Morgan. And Jeff Facero will lead it off. Only 2 for 31. Strike 1 from Bobby Munoz. Leadoff man Marquise Grissom will follow. Contact. Mariano Duncan throws him out. There's one away. Well, we saw where Darren Daulton was saying being healthy helped him. Now we asked him to be more specific about why he became such a good hitter after getting healthy.
I think the reason why I was strictly a pull hitter early in my career was because I really didn't have a back leg, and I pulled the ball. That's the only way I could hit, was to get out there and pull the ball. That's the only pop that I had. You know, the last 3 or 4 years, I've been able to sit back on my back leg and drive the ball the other way.
You know, interesting. Here is Grissom, who popped to short his first time, taking ball 1. In 1986, Daulton was injured when Mike Heath slid into his left knee at home plate. And I think that's what he's talking about, Joe. That's the back leg for a left-handed hitter. And so he was limited to pulling the ball, but he had more and more surgeries and got it corrected ultimately. 1-1 the count to Grissom. Because Dalton for a long time was kind of an enigma. Where the Phillies said, hey, this guy is supposed to be great, but it's never happened. What a disappointment Darren Dalton is.
When I played for the Phillies in '83, I saw Dalton at that time, and I thought he was going to be a good player then, and he's developed into a really good player.
Morandini and Grissom is retired. 2 men gone here in the third.
There you see what Dalton did earlier, and he's improved each year. And now he's become one of the best RBI men in baseball in the last couple of years.
You see that average from 6 home runs now. All of a sudden, he's just a big run producer. 105 RBIs last year, 109 the year before. Cliff Floyd struck out his first time. Into the hole. Stocker, long throw off the turn. Not in time. We saw a little bit of the speed there of Floyd. He wasn't even close.
Well, that's one of the reasons that Tommy Harper was saying hit the ball the other way a little bit. That will keep you out of slumps. If you pull the ball a lot and your swing goes off, you're going to go into a slump. What happens is if you slap the ball the other way with the speed that Floyd has, it's very difficult, especially on AstroTurf, for Stocker or any other shortstop to throw him out from that deep in the hole. No way. Not even close at first base.
Hit number 3 for the Expos, and here is Moises Alou, who also got an infield hit his first time up there. That was in the first. Moyne, an infield hit here in the third. 2 of the 3 hits have been infield hits. Bobby Munoz been very strong here early. That one is down the line. In Cavilla over to cut it off. And now he doesn't cut it off. He plays the carom. Floyd will be stopped at third. Gets back safely. A double for Alou.
I can't believe they stopped Floyd at third on that play, except they're trailing by 5 runs, but Floyd would have been able to score. But I guess you do not want to get a runner thrown out at the plate when you're 5 runs down, so Manuel stopped him at third base. Alou just rips this ball down the left field line. I thought Incavilla was going to be able to cut it off at first, but now watch, the ball goes into the corner. Incavilla just kind of plays the carom. He doesn't try to cut it off.
Well, I don't understand why he didn't try to cut it off.
I didn't either.
Larry Walker, big breaking ball. He didn't get it.
But I still believe that Floyd could have scored.
I thought he'd score without question.
Right.
I think he anticipated being waved home too.
Well, he almost stumbled when he tried to get back to third base, tried to stop.
And the fastball misses. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, Walker been one of the big RBI men. It's a big spot here.
And watch this ball. See, Incavilla's already over there. I thought he had a chance to cut it off right there. And see, he just kind of runs away from it. But obviously he played it correctly because he held the runner at third.
Well, it is 2-1 now to Walker. Walker for the year has 46 RBIs. So he and Alou are tied for the club lead in that category. A single here could mean 2 runs. They're down 5-0. He spins one in there low. 3-1. There is Floyd, who got an infield hit at third base. Alou, who doubled at second base. Alou is 2 for 2 tonight. And Munoz trying to get out of the jam here. Got him off the fists on 3-1. And caught by Duncan. And so it goes for the Expos here. Nothing going right for Montreal. 5-0 Phillies after 3. Night baseball, 5-0 the Phillies as we head to the 4th. Now coming up Wednesday night, Ken Griffey Jr. He's chasing Maris and the Babe. Got 30 home runs. And Tim Salmon, last year's Rookie of the Year in the Angels, 10-30 from Anaheim. And look at Griffey's season after 67 games, 30 home runs already for Griffey. There is Kevin Stocker, and he takes a called strike. It is 0-1. Stocker, a switch hitter batting right-handed, facing Jeff Fassero. There's one other ball game going on tonight. That's in Texas at the ballpark in Arlington. The first place Rangers, with just a 2-game lead over the Mariners at the start of the day, they're taking on Oakland. Oakland is only 7.5 games out with a 5-game winning streak. They went to Chicago, trounced the White Sox. Now they've gone to Texas, and they've been trouncing the Rangers. We want to keep you updated on that ball game tonight. The Athletics with a record of 24-43, but they're only 7.5 out, Joe.
And a long way to go.
And that's a ball inside. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
If there's no strike.
Well, when we were out there, what, a couple of weeks ago, we saw the Athletics. They got clobbered by Cleveland. And La Russa at that time had been talking about, hey, at this point, we just got to keep our heads up, not be depressed at all, because if we get a good streak together, maybe we can get back into this race. And we all kind of laughed. Yeah, get back in the race. Yeah. Well, they're 7.5 out. They win tonight, they'll be 6.5 out.
Well, the one thing we mentioned there, John, is that they never quit. Even though they were falling behind early in ball games, they always came back to make it a good contest. So that hard work and determination is paying off a little bit for them now.
And I've been reading little dispatches that Mark McGwire might come back soon.
Yes.
They got a little punch in that lineup anyway. Gates is back now, hitting well. Baroa has been a discovery. And Sierra has been rejuvenated.
Well, he's been hitting well all the time. He just didn't have anybody to drive in or any help.
And Ricky Henderson playing like Ricky Henderson again. That one is foul. By the way, Mark McGwire did play last night.
Right.
And he is in the lineup tonight.
Last night was his first night back, and he started because they came off disabled list. They put him against the left-hander so that he could come back in that capacity. So
and he went 1 for 2.
Once a hitter, always a hitter, John.
If you came back tonight, you'd go 1 for 2 with a walk.
And then probably 0 for 30.
That's a base hit for Stocker. So we've set the scene for that one. Let's go down to Linda Cohn with this update.
You certainly did, gentlemen. Thanks a lot, Linda Cohn, back in the studio. MCI proof positive takes you out to the ballpark in Arlington. Oakland in town, gunning for their 6th straight win. Ruben Sierra against Kenny Rogers, his 17th home run of the year. That made it 3-0 Oakland. Kenny Rogers walked in 2 in the first. Gentlemen.
All right. 3-0 for the Athletics there. 5-0 for the Phillies here. We're in the 4th inning here. Runner at first, nobody out. For Sierra, by the way, that gives him 61 RBIs for the year. He's got a chance to win the RBI title in the American League. Will Clark of Texas leads the league with 67. Now Sierra, 61. Morandini, and he takes a strike. Well, he was walked intentionally in the 2nd inning. We did some checking because at first they were pitching to him until Fassero fell behind him 2-0. Morandini 2 for 19 against lefties, and you see that's 2 for his last night, 19, and in his career he's never really hit well against lefties either. That one is hit hard down the right field line. Walker will have to play the carom. And in there safely is Morandini. Walker's got a great arm, got rid of it in a hurry. Stopping at third, Stocker. The batter will be Munoz.
And as soon as you say that, he's not hitting left-handers. He rips a double to right field. Actually, left-handers were hitting 130 going into tonight's contest against Fassero, but that's a good pitch for a left-hander to hit. It's up and on the inside part of the plate where he's bailing from. Walker plays it, fires, makes it a close play at second, but really no chance to get a good runner when the ball bounces off the wall. And again, the Expos are going to play the infield in or halfway. They're starting with it halfway, and I'm sure they'll move in.
Munoz single home run his first time. Slapped it into right field. Right up the middle, base hit. Stocker scores. Morandini will be stopped. And Munoz is 2 for 2. And in the last 2 nights here, Philadelphia pitchers have driven in 7 runs.
Well, I think they need to have a better scouting report on the Philly pitchers as hitters. They probably have a great scouting report on their pitching, but they better do a little better with their hitting. Fastball right in the middle of the plate, and that's usually the problem. When you get a fastball right where pitchers are swinging, they can usually get lumber on it. And it drives in 1, and Morandini stops at third base.
Well, Phillies pitchers have now driven in 18 runs this year. Here is Billy Hatcher. Ball 1. Ball 2. Ball 1. I knew it was ball 1, Joe, and I looked at the scoreboard and they flashed ball 2 real quick. I thought, well, maybe I missed one. I'm just going to quit looking at the scoreboard.
Well, I think you and Juan Bell better stop looking at the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Just watch Bruce Fleming.
3-1 the count. There's Joey Eishen, just caught up in the minor leagues today, and he's warming up in the bullpen.
Takes Tim Scott's place, right? Scott went on the disabled list.
No, well, he's already been on the disabled list, but they sent down Gabe White, the starter who got knocked out early last night.
Right.
So they felt they needed a little reinforcement for the bullpen, having had 12 innings pitched out of the bullpen the last 2 days anyway. 2-1 the count now to Billy Hatcher. That's my estimate. Morandini at third, Munoz at first, and that is ball 3.
I think Fleming agrees with you this time.
There is Mickey Morandini at third base and Bobby Munoz at first base. Munoz had been 1 for 9 as a hitter before tonight. Hatcher to center field, deep enough to score Morandini. Grissom catches. Morandini runs, and the Phillies have a 7-0 lead. It's not been a very good weekend for the top teams in the National League East. They've been getting lit up lately,
including the Atlanta Braves, who have maybe the best pitching staff in baseball, the best starting pitchers, we should say, but they've been getting knocked around as well. You're right.
Well, they lost last night to Cincinnati 16-0. You see the Braves they're not hurting too badly in the standings, despite getting clobbered. The Expos right behind them. Those are the 2 best records in the major leagues. But the Braves lost again today, 12-4 to Cincinnati. 28 runs allowed in 2 games by Atlanta's pitching, and all earned.
And you mentioned the Expos have been giving up a lot of runs here to the Phillies, and the Expos were second to the Braves as far as earned run average in the National League.
That is foul by Mariano Duncan down the left field line. Well, the Phillies now have scored 25 runs in this series in 3 games, actually 2.5 games. We were only in the 4th inning tonight. Duncan delivered 2 runs with a double his last time up there. And Johnny Padres in the middle. Pitching coach saying, yeah, nothing wrong with our pitching. They just weren't scoring for us. That's all.
That's Vukovich and also Dennis Minke. Minke's the hitting instructor.
Well, let's see. The Phillies numbers 9, 1, and 2 hitters. Munoz and Hatcher and Duncan have 6 of the 7 RBIs in this game so far. Munoz has got 2, Hatcher 2, and Duncan 2. 2-2 the count to Mariano Duncan. He now has 42 RBIs for the year, so it's not unusual for him to be driving in some runs. Runner at first, 1 out, 2 runs in. That's a foul. Off to the right and out of play. Phillies are in the midst of a road trip. We saw them, of course, last Sunday on Sunday Night Baseball at home, and they won a ball game there. Then they went to New York, and they lost 2 out of 3. It looked like more of the same for them. In fact, Jim Fregosi was so upset after a 1-0 loss to Bobby Jones in the Mets Wednesday. He actually criticized his team in the press, which is unusual. for Fergosi. And the count goes to 3-2. And then they came here, and now after falling behind 6-1 in the first inning Friday. That's right, 6-1. The Phillies, it looked just like the ball club that went to the World Series last year. And they better keep it up because they've got a series coming up in Pittsburgh next and then in Atlanta. Well, ball 4 to Duncan. Second time that he's walked. He had walked only 15 times all year.
Well, but now he's an everyday third baseman. They're afraid of the third baseman.
So when he was a second baseman or shortstop, he didn't walk.
Second baseman, shortstop, they're not afraid of them.
So Munoz takes second base, Duncan takes first, and here is John Kruk. Let me just correct myself. They're going to Pittsburgh, are the Phillies, but when they face Atlanta, they'll be back home in Philly. Swing and a miss by John Kruk, 0-1.
And John Kruk is just really bailing out here. I just don't remember seeing him bail this much against a left-hander, except for Randy Johnson in the All-Star game. Now watch look where he steps, and look, he's already gone. Nothing you can do if you bail that much or pull off that much. Front shoulder leaves, everything else leaves. Your head leaves. Can't see the ball.
There it is again. 0-2 the count. Well, Kruk, after his battle with cancer and undergoing the radiation treatments, surgery, and then trying to get himself back in game condition, and seems to have gone through a period of depression as well. He even contemplated retiring from the game. That's so unusual after you've had a battle with cancer. Being confronted with your mortality. 1-2 the count. When we were there last week, because he wasn't really in game condition yet, he was only playing every other day. And still isn't really in full game condition even now, but with some injuries, they need him in there. Look out.
Now these last two pitches by Facero is helping him to bail. The 0-2 pitch with a fastball in, and now the 1-2 pitch looks like it might get away from him. It's also in. And there goes Kruk.
2-2 the count. 2 on, only 1 out. The Phillies ahead 7-0 here in the 4th inning.
Now let's see if Facero goes away with a breaking ball.
Here it is, the slider.
And that's what you do with 0-2 in, then you have to go back away with the breaking ball. But as a hitter, it's kind of hard to lean out there. As Tony Perez used to say, you think out there, but you don't go out there. It's often the pitch before that sets up the strikeout. Here's the pitch before, way up and in, so Kruk gets out of the way. Now here's the slider breaking down and away, and no Kruk in sight. You can see he's back on his heels there. Good shot there. Kind of laugh a little bit because I've been there myself.
Here's Pete Incaviglia. He got an infield hit in the second. Really in a ball that Sean Barry should have played.
Yes.
Score ruled it a hit.
Leniently.
But that was the start of a 5-run rally for the Phillies. Incaviglia grounded out to short in the 3rd. He's 1 for 2. 2 on, 2 out in the 4th inning. To right center field, Walker. And that is the inning. Been all Phillies so far. We'll see Fletcher, then Cordero when we get back. 7-0 Philadelphia. Felipe Alou trying to figure out a way that his team can get from a 7-run deficit and get back into this game. They're down 7-0 as we head into the last of the 4th inning. It'll be Darren Fletcher, Wilfredo Cordero, and Tito Bell coming up.
John, let me ask you a question. Does Felipe Alou's face look like that of a doctor? That's what his father wanted him to be. He was going to go to medical school. Felipe wanted to be a baseball player. He said he didn't have the money to go to medical school, so he started playing baseball. But his father really wanted him to be a medical Or you going to go to medical school?
Well, he does with the glasses, especially.
Yeah, it looks like a doctor, doesn't it?
That medical.
Dr. Alou.
Yeah.
But it's really funny because he says that Mateo and Jesus, they got the support of the family and the new gloves and shoes every year. When he went along, he had to sneak and play. So he said they had the best of it, the support of his father, Joe, and Felipe. There you see the Alou brothers. Mateo is the short one in the center. He won the batting title. Felipe on the right, and Jesus on the left. Jesus was a teammate of mine with the Astros.
Jesus is the last one to come up.
And there's Moises. So this has been a long line of Alous.
The Alou dynasty. Fletcher. And the count goes to 1 ball and 2 strikes. Fletcher grounded out his first time. Cordero on deck facing Bobby Munoz here in the 4th inning. First game I ever saw. Big league game I ever saw. Candlestick Park, and Felipe Alou hit a home run for the Giants.
And I tell you, the first autograph I ever got was Felipe Alou when he played for the Giants. It was actually the only autograph I ever got as a kid was Felipe Alou. And it was more for my aunt. She was a big Felipe Alou fan.
Oh, I see. That's what you said, Mr. Alou, this is not for me, but for
my aunt. Yeah, Aunt Tense. She wanted it.
Did he swing? Yes. Fremming made the call himself. And Fletcher is out number 1. The Alou family dynasty. And, of course, Felipe here with his son. And, of course, there you had Felipe, Jesus, Matty Alou. Back in the days when Matty was with the Pirates. Matty was a batting champion then.
Yes.
1966.
Hit 345 that year, but Felipe was also in the race. This is Jesus. He would swing at anything. And Felipe, he would just hit hard line drives all over the ballpark.
He had more power than the other guy.
Yes. Mateo was probably the fastest, and Felipe was probably second. Jesus wasn't that fast, but he was a good hitter.
I tell you, Matty Alou, he had a great arm, which people forget about, but I used to like to get there during batting practice, and they'd have infield, and Matty would put on a show from the outfield, firing the ball all the way into the plate. Jesus always had that little crick in his neck. He was always kind of like Ken Seiko nowadays.
And Roberto Clemente was similar.
So the count is 1-2 to Cordero here. 1 out, nobody on in the 4th inning. 1963, I believe it was.
Yes.
Late that year, they brought up Jesus for the minor leagues, and all 3 Alous still with the Giants played outfield together. First time that ever happened to Major Leagues. Well, that's going to be a hit for Cordero. Munoz thought about barehanding it, then figured, hey, there's no shot anyway. Base hit, another infield hit for the Expos.
Well, Cordero chopped the slider, hits the top of it, and you're right, Munoz thought about trying to barehand it, but wisely he doesn't, because, I mean, you may end up hurting your fingers, and that's his throwing hand, so it doesn't make sense in a 7-0 ball game to try that play.
Here's Tito Bell.
John, it was September 15th, 1963, when they both played in the all 3 of them played in the outfield. And it's the first and only time that 3 brothers have actually started, I guess, in the outfield together.
Well, the next year, Felipe was off to the Braves.
Yes.
Then the Milwaukee Braves. A strike. 1-1 the count to Bell. Matty, in 1966, by then, he was gone to the Pirates, and that's where he became a batting champion. At 342 that year. That was a great hitting club, the Pirates of 66.
Pirates have a lot of good hitting teams.
The Pirates that year had 6 different guys all hit around 300 or better, including Clemente, Matty Alou. Manny Mota came off the bench at 331 that year. Don Clendenin was on the club. I mean, they just...
Willie Stargell.
Yeah. They ran up the hitters up there. Gene Alley hit 299 for that club. A strike. 2-2 the count. The Bell. The Pirates that year finished 3rd, though. The Giants finished 2nd. The Dodgers won the pennant. Pretty good 3-way pennant race that year. And Felipe Alou's Braves helped do the Pirates in late that year, as they slugged a lot of home runs and clobbered the Pirates and helped knock them out of the race.
You know, if you take a look at Philippe Alou, you realize what a great job he has done since coming to the Expos.
Strike 3 call. The Bell strikes out for the second straight time.
Well, when Philippe Alou came to this organization, they were really going nowhere. You know, he's really breathed new life into this franchise, and now they're a very viable franchise, even though they're not drawing like they think they should. But it is now a very good franchise with a good manager. And he gets a lot of credit for it. He's gotten 2 standing ovations this year, John, when he's gone out to take a pitcher out. Look at that. He has been second only to the Braves as far as wins since he took over in 1992. So that shows the difference in this franchise since he has taken over.
Sean Barry, 1 ball and no strikes the count. 2 down, runner at first. We're in the 4th inning. Only been 2 balls that have been hit to the outfield so far, plus this one.
And as soon as you say it,
against Munoz, that's over the 3rd ball and has made it to the outfield. Hit by the Expos. Cordero stops at second, and Barry has at least kept the inning alive here so that the pitcher will not lead off the next inning. If nothing else is accomplished, but that's not too bad.
well, Philippe Alou told you that he wanted 7 innings out of Facero. Maybe he's going to get that 7 no matter what, because he's going to let Facero stay in the ball game.
Well, he's trailing 7-0. I guess at this point, Joe, you're so far behind. The main thing is let's not destroy our bullpen for tomorrow's game and Tuesday's game and things like that. They're going to St. Louis. They got a game there tomorrow.
This is by contrast to something Larry Walker said. He said he really knew that Philippe Alou was going to be a great manager when at one game he had the pitcher spot 3 consecutive times be passed over without having to change pitchers, you know, without having to pinch hit. He just kept maneuvering his lineup so that he had 3 times through the order without the pitcher hitting.
1 ball, 1 strike to Facero, who's only 2 for 32 for this year.
One other thing about Philippe Alou, he had 14 years of management in the minor leagues. So when you talk about paying your dues, he really paid his dues. 14 years managing in the minor leagues before he came up to the big leagues as a manager. And I really believe that he should have gotten a shot sooner. And he was offered a job in 1985 to manage the San Francisco Giants. But he didn't feel that there was enough security there, a 1-year deal or something, so he decided not to take it. So it took him 7 more years before he got a major league job.
2-2 the count. We've been talking about the Alou dynasty. Matty had the batting title in '66, but look what Felipe did that year. That was the first year of the Atlanta Braves. He hit leadoff most of that year and hit 31 homers, 327, 122 runs scored.
And he also had over 200 hits.
He had Hank Aaron hitting behind him.
Yeah, that'll get you some good pitches to hit.
Strike 3, the fastball from Munoz. And the Expos lead 2. They've stranded 6 in the first 4 innings. Dalton is coming up, 7-0 Phils. Thinking Darren Dalton is getting ready to hit for the Phils.
Well, let's take a look at Darren Dalton on this split screen. This is the old Darren Dalton. Hips already open, shoulder open. That'll make him go this way instead of going towards the pitcher. Now watch, a little different swing. He's already open, not as much power in that swing. See, he's already open. By contrast, on the right, he's already closed, front shoulders closed. He will go this way and stay in longer, drive off the back leg. Look at that. Much better swing, more power. And that's the Darren Dalton that you see today as compared to the Darren Dalton of a couple of years ago.
A lot of pain, a lot of disappointment, a lot of sacrifice in those years for Darren Dalton. A lot of time spent in the rehab room and under the surgeon's knife. But he persevered, and all of a sudden Darren Dalton become an overnight sensation.
And I think if you have to pick, you know, players about and say use the word professionalism, Darren Dalton exemplifies that very well. I mean, he's one of my favorite players. I think you can tell that, but just by the way he goes about his job, and he's also a leader, and I like that.
And he leans by example,
right?
But he's also, as you mentioned earlier, a take charge guy. He hollers.
if he
and
sees,
he commands respect.
right, if he sees something wrong, he says something about it.
I mean, is that important in a clubhouse to have a guy who commands respect and will holler at guys if they need it?
Very important. And it takes the manager out of the equation. The manager doesn't always want to come in and yell at players. Players should help discipline each other sometimes. If your player hits a ground ball and he doesn't run the ball out, the other player should get on him rather than wait for the manager to have to do it.
So, I mean, a lot was made of Danny Jackson hollering at Tony Longmire, but that's going to happen on a good team with a big star who feels it needs to be done.
It needs to be done. You're supposed to do it. Ooh.
That one is gone. Wow. Bonsoir, elle est partie.
Oui.
Man, as it landed.
Well, Dalton had 4 base hits in yesterday's ball game. He was 4 for 5. Now he's 2 for 3 with 2 runs batted in this ball game. And that's number 14 for Darren.
He obviously needs a day off, Joe.
Yes, but that's why you can't give him a day off, and that's what gets him in trouble. He just keeps hitting, and he keeps doing well, so you leave him in the lineup.
Come on, Tony.
Now here is Longmire. He's striking the outside. Longmire's had a sacrifice bunt, and he's grounded to first. 0 for 1. 8-0 for the Phillies. Dalton now 14 home runs and 49 runs batted in. Center field, Grissom. And Longmire is out number 1. Darren Daulton. Man.
Yeah, I mean, you can see him practicing that swing. This ball was in and up a little bit, and he really put a charge into it. Looked like a hanging slider, and that's exactly what it is. It's in, and, I mean, he really gets all of this one. Look at that. I mean, a little bit uppercut in his swing there. A bit of an uppercut, and it goes a long ways.
One out, nobody on, and here is Kevin Stocker. He's grounded to third and singled. He singled in the 4th as a leadoff batter and started a 2-run rally. 1 ball and no strikes. Bonsoir, elle est partie. That's Roger Brulat. Broadcast the game here in Montreal in French, along with Jacques Doucet. That is his special home run call, Joe.
Okay, well, as an analyst, was I supposed to just say oui?
That's good.
Okay.
Well, whatever "that's right, John" is in French.
Okay.
Oui, Jean. Bullpen is going again. Joey Eischen, who was up earlier, is up again. 2-1 the count to Stocker. Oakland in Texas tonight. That's the other ball game still going. Okay, foul ball. We're going to give you an update of that one shortly. That American League West is just kind of a crazy division. It looked like Texas earlier this week was going to take charge out there. They got a big lead. They got up to 500, actually got over 500. But they've collapsed since then. The last week has been a nightmare for the Rangers. 2-2 the count. Another ball game that has been going tonight. Not simultaneous with this one, but also a late start. The Mets at Florida. We'll update you on that one as well. If you want to know what's happening in baseball, this is where you turn. ESPN. In right field. And Walker's got it. Let's go now to Linda Cohn for this update.
Thanks, John. And Joe Robbie, Dwight Gooden the story. The Mets won at 6-1, salvaging a split with the Marlins, but Gooden struck out 6 through 8. His dad saw him pitch in person for the first time in 6 years. Back to Montreal, gentlemen. Happy Dad's Day.
And you know what? Couldn't happen to a nicer guy, Dwight Gooden. I'm glad to see that he won that ball game.
Great story. His dad finally able to see him pitch. And Dwight had 10 strikeouts earlier this week against the Phillies.
So maybe he's coming back. Dr. K.
Into left center. Alou on the run. Morandini hit it well. Alou tracked it down. 8-0 Philadelphia. Halfway through. Top of the order coming up. Marquise Grissom, Cliff Floyd, and Moises Alou. Stay tuned. 8-0 Phillies as we go to the last of the 5th inning. Join ESPN with the most comprehensive World Cup coverage tonight following SportsCenter at midnight Eastern. It's tape-delayed coverage of the Cameroon-Sweden match being played right now. Then tomorrow at 3:55 Eastern, Brazil begins pursuit of their 4th World Cup title when they take on Russia. Catch all your World Cup action right here on ESPN. They'll be playing out at Stanford. And whether you like soccer or not, when you have a chance to see Brazil play, that's always entertaining. So do yourself a favor, catch that game tomorrow and watch soccer as they call it in Brazil, as Pelé used to call it, the beautiful game. And the way they play, that's exactly the way it is. Here's Marquise Grissom. 1 ball, 1 strike, or 1 ball, 2 strikes now to Grissom.
And we've talked about the hitting of the Phillies, but Munoz has pitched very well. He's been in complete control of this ball game. He's had all of his pitches working. And he came into this ball game with a 2.62 earned run average, so he's been pitching very well lately.
Well, in fact, this is his 5th start. He's been pitching in relief before that. As a starter through the first 4 innings tonight, his ERA just as a starter, 1.98.
And he also has 5 strikeouts in this ball game.
Struck out the side there in the 4th inning. And has not walked anybody. Always in the past, walks were the bane of his existence. 3-2 to Grissom. A foul. Floyd on deck and Alou after that. 8-0 for the Phillies in the last of the 5th. The Expos do have 6 hits against Munoz. One hit pretty well. But Billy Hatcher runs it down. And Grissom is 0 for 3. Always got to be a key to keep that leadoff man, especially when there's a good one like Grissom or Dykstra, Ricky Henderson. Keep them off the bases. It's a pretty large part of the battle.
And the most important guy, if you have a lead, as Munoz has, is the first hitter. Because as you go through the lineup, I mean, if you don't get the leadoff hitter on, very rarely do you score a lot of runs. You may score 1 or 2, but not a big inning.
Well, the Expos have not had a leadoff batter on in this game.
That's why they're still being shut out.
In the 3rd inning, they ended up with runners at 2nd and 3rd, but both of them reached base after 2 were down already. They got 2 men out of the 4th inning, but the 2nd one didn't reach until 2 were down. 0-1 the count to Floyd. He has a strikeout and also an infield hit. 1 for 2. And the curveball misses. 1 ball and 1 strike.
If you look at the big innings for the Phillies in this ball game, each one has started with the leadoff hitter getting on base.
That's right. Even Darren Dalton led off with a home run. Incavilla led off the 2nd, getting on base on really a misplay by Sean Barry. They called it a hit. That started a 5-run rally. This is Morandini. And that's out number 2.
See, that swing there, John, is exactly what Tommy Harper wants to get Cliff Floyd away from. He was definitely trying to pull that ball. And when you do that, you'll hit a lot of 4-3 ground balls. Now watch this swing. See that? That is a definite pull swing. You roll your hands over and you're going to hit a lot of ground balls. See, that ball's out over the plate, but he's trying to pull. You see, with his body and with his arms and hands. But he's a young player, and you're going to make those mistakes. Even the veteran players do that on occasion.
Moises Alou. Only once has he come up with somebody on base, and that was in the 3rd inning, and Floyd was only at first base. He's not had a chance to really not get anybody with a runner in scoring position. He is 2 for 2, though. That's a foul out of play. Now, with that batting average of .358, Tony Gwynn leads the National League. After today's games, Gwynn is at .385. Hal Morris of Cincinnati, .355. So Alou, right at the moment, has moved into 2nd place in the league in batting average. And that's out of play.
And with Tony Gwynn in the league, a lot of times that's what you're playing for. 2nd place, because Tony Gwynn, you know, he's just such a great hitter.
Well, somebody asked Alou, do you think you have a shot at the batting title? He said, well, not until Tony Gwynn retires.
Right.
2-2 the count.
John, someone asked Moises, you know, what does he learn from his father? And I thought it was great. He said, I learned to respect and have a lot of pride in the Alou name and to respect baseball. And that's really kind of the way that Philippe Alou played, and that's the kind of the way he was. A lot of respect in his name, for his name, and also for baseball.
Into left field, another base hit from Moises Alou. He'll hold it first as Incaviglia cuts this one off. 3 for 3 for Alou.
This pitch is down and away, and Moises goes and gets it. It's a breaking ball down and away. And I've seen this swing quite often. He seems to be a very good low ball hitter when the ball's out away from him.
Well, he is now hitting 360 for the year.
Okay. The Tony Gwynn is still at 380.
385. Yeah.
Okay.
There's Larry Walker. Incaviglia, easy play. And just like that, the inning is over. Walker 0 for 3. 1 hit, 1 left. We head to the 6th inning. Munoz will lead it off. Phillies 8, Expos nothing. John Miller and Joe Morgan here from Montreal. And so far, the Expos cannot get these pitchers out. This is last night in the 2nd inning. Butch Hendry gives up a 3-run triple to Danny Jackson later in the same game. New pitcher. And Jackson hits a 2-run double. 5 runs batted in. Jackson won the game 8-4. Now, Bobby Munoz tonight. 2nd inning, singles home a run. Just did beat the throw. Then in the 4th inning, another single. And another run batted in. I've never, and now a new pitcher is in, Joey Eishen. See if he has any more luck here with Bobby Munoz.
Well, they're probably all running for their scouting reports on these pitchers as hitters. Munoz trying to look like a hitter there.
Well, last night, Butch Henry talking about the triple that Jackson hit against him. He said, well, says it was a hanging slider. It was up right in his zone. I mean, he should have crushed it. 1-2 now to Munoz. Joey Eishen just called up for the minor leagues today. You saw his numbers there in the minors. I can't believe it. Is this really happening, Joe? Why would they throw him a breaking ball there anyway? I don't get that.
That was going to be my question. He threw him a good fastball right by him. He also threw a fastball that tailed away. And then I guess you figure that pitchers can't hit breaking balls. That's basically the book on them. And Felipe has to just kind of laugh at it. Here's another pitch. A breaking ball is ripped up the middle by Munoz. Not a great swing, but he got great results.
And I mean, he looked like he wasn't handling the fastball. Why not just make him prove he can handle it before you? I mean, maybe Eishen was just testing him.
Well, you can be a pitching coach, John, because I'm sure that Kerrigan is asking the same thing right about now. Why?
Billy Hatcher, 1 for 2, 2 runs batted in. There's Joe Kerrigan. Hasn't asked for my help and doesn't need it. Base hit for Hatcher. Hatcher 2 for 3, and Munoz over to second. 8-0. The Phillies leading the Expos. We're in the 6th inning. It's 11 hits now for the Phils. Sunday night baseball from Olympic Stadium in Montreal. I'm John Miller along with Joe Morgan. We're glad to have you joining us. 8-0. The Phillies are out in front here in the 6th with 2 men on and nobody out. Second Expos pitcher of the game, Joey Eishen, has just come on for Jeff Fassero to start this inning. Munoz and Hatcher hit back-to-back singles, and here is Mariano Duncan. Up the middle, base hit. Munoz will stop at third base. Duncan with his second hit to go with 2 walks and 2 runs batted in. Hatcher stops at second, and there is Duncan aboard at first. 3 consecutive hits against Joey Eishen.
Maybe this does look like the Phillies of 1993 when they led the National League in runs scored. They're starting to put some numbers on the board.
Joe Kerrigan. Well, The Expos, their pitching staff has been something to brag about. 3.58 earned run average before tonight, and that's after getting clobbered the last 2 nights. It's going up still further. Here is John Kruk. 4-1. The Phillies making some noise all of a sudden. Got 3 more games on this road trip in Pittsburgh. Then they go home to face Atlanta. Bases loaded for Kruk. High pop-up. Third base side. Berry. There's 1 ball and 1 strike.
I have not seen John Kruk look this bad against left-handed pitchers in a long, long time. Now watch, he goes again. Watch his front shoulder. It's already gone. Look at that. I mean, there's no way. He just looks like he's just swinging and hoping. But he's too good a hitter to do that. So it just tells you that he is not quite where he would like to be as a hitter. There's a few more games, and he has not faced much left-handed pitching this year.
Well, in his career prior to this season, Kruk had always held his own against the lefties. A .275 batting average against left-handed pitching.
And especially last year, he hit well against left-handed.
.292 last year. That is Munoz at third base. Hatcher second base. Duncan at first, and you see in the background bullpen activity. Gil Heredia is now warming up.
John, what usually happens for a left-hander swings like this, he's not picking the ball up quickly enough.
Bell to second, and they get just the one there. Cordero covering. Scoring is Munoz. Hatcher to third. Kruk gets an RBI. And it is now 9-0 for the Phils. Kruk now 0 for 4, but he does get the run batted in.
Watch his front shoulder. See how it's already gone? That tells you right there that he's not able to hit the ball the other way. Now watch, his front shoulder will go here. John Kruk usually goes in here a little bit, and that allows him to hit the ball back through the middle. This way he only has one place to go, and that's to pull the ball with his top hand. Watch his top hand. That's all he can do. And that's not the John Kruk for the past 3 or 4 years.
No. So when you think of John Kruk, you think of a guy who hits the ball to left field all the time.
Yeah, but he has no way of hitting the ball to left field when you pull off the ball like that. You can only use your hands because your body's gone and nothing. And if you use your hands, you're just going to roll over and pull it to second base. Pull some ground balls to the right side.
Pete Incaviglia has had an infield hit, grounded to short and flying to right center. Incaviglia had a tremendous year last year, particularly for a guy who didn't play every day. It would have been a very good year for a guy who played every day. Incaviglia finished up with 24 homers and 89 runs batted in last year, and did all of that at only 368 at-bats. He swung, and the count is 1-2. Coming to Philadelphia is like a new lease on life for Incaviglia, including this year. There are 506 at-bats, almost a full season.
Yeah, almost.
34 home runs and 111 RBIs.
550 to 600 is considered a full season if you're an everyday player.
Hayes struck him out with a slider. So Eischen gets the second out.
Take a look at the slider from Eischen. You can see how he's holding the ball. Good rotation there. You can see it. That's a tight slider. Good slider because it's tight. Meaning the spin is tight.
Joey Eischen with his first major league strikeout. This is his major league debut. Darren Dalton. Double home run. Oh, man. He homered his last time. And this time, against a different pitcher, he gets nailed.
Well, it's obvious that Eischen was trying to come inside. And the ball got away from him. Well, he drops down a little bit, and that gets more tail on the ball. And it gets Dalton on the right arm. Well, Dalton goes right in, and then he can't get out of the way. He actually starts in. Watch, he starts in. Now he tries to move his body out of the way, but he left his arm out over the plate a little bit. Gets hit.
Well, the Phillies were none too happy about that. Here is Longmire. And that's low. I mean, in the situation, Joe, down 9-0. The series is coming to an end. They're not going to face each other till much later in the season again. No reason at all that the Expos would have here to throw it at Dalton.
No, and I definitely don't believe that you have a rookie pitcher, you know, guy just called up throwing at Darren Dalton.
The bases are loaded with 2 down. There is Hatcher at third base, Kruk now at second base, and Dalton at first base. Joey Eishen from West Covina, California. Used to be in the Texas Rangers organization. Was picked up in a trade. That one is hit deep into left center. Grissom back. It'll go up against the wall. Hatcher scores, Kruk scores, and they all score. Dalton comes in. A 3-run double for Longmire. It is 12-0 Philadelphia. First hit of the game for Longmire.
And there you see Felipe Alou. I don't think he'll get a standing ovation this time, but he has gotten some standing ovations when he comes out of the dugout because they have a lot of respect for him here in Montreal. Joey, a double switch.
Yeah, Joey Eishen in his major league debut goes 2/3 of an inning and gives up 4 runs and 4 hits. And Alou will go to the bullpen yet again. We're only in the 6th inning. And Heredia is coming in. He worked last night for an inning. 12-0 for the Phillies. We'll be back. It's 12-0 for the Phillies, and here is Gil Heredia on to pitch, and Heredia worked in last night's game and none too successfully. He inherits a runner at second and 2 down. There is Longmire at second base. Kevin Stocker, the hitter. 12-0 Philadelphia. He's right. Other changes. This was a part of a double switch. Rondell White goes in to play left field, and he will hit 9th in the order. And Moises Alou moves from left field to right field, and Larry Walker leaves the game. Heredia will hit in Walker's spot and is not due up until 9th in the next rotation through the batting order. Kevin Stocker 1 for 3. His one hit came in the 4th inning when he started a 2-run rally. Next Sunday night, we'll be back here in Canada, but not in Montreal. We'll be over in Toronto at the Sky Dome. See the world champion Blue Jays, who, like the Phillies, have fallen upon hard times here in 1994. Blue Jays, Paul Molitor, Joe Carter, Roberto Alomar, John Olerud and company, and the Baltimore Orioles, who have designs on winning that division. Rafael Palmeiro, Cal Ripken, Chris Sabo. It'll be 8 Eastern next Sunday night, 5 Pacific. Low throw there by Bell, but Floyd hangs on to it. 12-0 as we head to the last of the 6th. Sunday night baseball from Montreal. I'm John Miller along with Joe Morgan, and happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And Joe, I know you always wish your dad happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to my father, Leonard Morgan, who's in California. He's the real Mr. Morgan.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, and who are you?
I'm just Joe.
Just Joe, the Hall of Famer. His son, who happened to make the Hall of Fame. It's a pretty good Father's Day gift, too, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Making the Hall of Fame for him.
Yeah, you're right.
A new catcher has come on. Todd Pratt replaces Darren Dalton behind the plate.
Well, they're giving him some rest, like they told you they were going to do, didn't they?
Yeah. I hope he's all right, too. He had a hit in the arm near the elbow, it looked like. Here is Darren Fletcher. Bobby Munoz. 12-0 he's ahead. He's given up 7 hits, but hasn't walked anybody. Phillies, who lost 4/5 of their starting rotation from a year ago. They traded Mulholland, and then Kurt Schilling was supposed to be the ace. He's had 2 different surgeries. He was 0-7 before he revealed that he was hurting. The count goes to 2-1 to Fletcher, who's 0-2. And they just kept falling. Tommy Green, who won 16 last year, went on the disabled list. Ben Rivera, who won 13, he's on the disabled list. And the only man left out of all of those, Danny Jackson, he's having a sensational year. He's 9-1. Now they've added Munoz. He started pitching well. Also David West, who was originally scheduled to go tonight. He's pitched well as a starter. And keep the Phillies afloat. Morandini. He got him. Nice play.
I tell you what, that is a real big league play by second baseman. He caught that ball behind second base on the outfield part of the AstroTurf, made the throw, ended up way over in left field. It's a very fine play. Now watch this. This is the most difficult play for a second baseman. You're running away from first base. Now he throws on the run. Look where he ends up, way over in left field. Nice scoop at first base. John Kruk, and he's clearly out. Nice play by Morandini, and he says, nice going there, John.
It was a dual effort there. This is Cordero. And where are you going there, Pete? We know the wind wasn't blowing it around. Cordero retired for the first time. The roof is on, and everybody's been very unhappy here in Montreal with the Expos and the fans this weekend because it's been so hot outside here. Amazingly hot for Montreal. And there's just been no air conditioning, no ventilation inside here at all. It doesn't exist at this point. And they have that roof sealed. They have what they call the winter seal. In the past, they've been able to open up the seal so that you'd still get some air circulation in here. But they don't even have that. And it has been like a sauna in here, especially Friday night. A lot of complaining about it, articles in the papers.
But we must admit it's much more pleasant here tonight.
Well, yeah, because we're sitting here with fans behind us.
Oh, is that why I don't feel very warm?
That's right.
Modern technology again. Modern medicine for the players, modern technology for the broadcaster.
Fan. Who ever thought of such a thing? Yeah. 2-2 the count.
I thought that was Pasquarelli back there just swinging. Peter Pasquarelli.
That's right. We give him a big palm branch, and that's part of his job. 2-2 the count to Tito Bell. Foul ball. Right into the Phillies dugout over there. Look out, guys. Len Dykstra had to scramble a little bit. Bobby Wine is laughing in the front. John Vukovic. Jim Fregosi. 12-0, everybody's giggling and fun. Foul ball in here. We're up 12-0, you know.
Let's take a look at Bell hitting this ground ball late. It's right toward Fregosi. And Fregosi was an all-star shortstop. I see why they're laughing.
I think it got him.
Yeah. Should have put some leather on it.
Recall. Number 6 for Munoz, including Bell 3 times. The hat trick for Tito Bell. 12-0 Phillies.
Rangers, Kenny Rogers facing Geronimo Baroja, and Baroja gets it down to Dean Palmer, who goes to first. Baroja safe. Will Clark trying to get Eric Fox at home. Fox the hook slide. He's safe. That made it 4-0 Oakland. A's win. They'll be just 6.5 back.
All right. So we'll keep you up on that one. Here it is 12-0. The Phillies lead the Expos as we go to the 7th inning. A new catcher, Tim Spear, has come on in place of Darren Fletcher. And it sounded like Morandini broke his bat on that foul ball. Mickey Morandini has been walked intentionally. He's doubled and scored, and he's flying to left center. Heads over to the dugout to get a new piece of wood. 12-0 for the Expos here as we start the 7th inning of the game. A rotten night for the Expos. After losing last night 8-4 and after blowing a lead, it all comes back to blowing a big lead Friday. Now they're most likely going to be swept here. Pop fly. Grissom. He's got it. One away, and now Munoz will come up. The wild card division. Montreal, at the moment, would have a 3-game lead over Houston, talking about a wild card berth. Houston fell out of first place in the Central today. Then St. Louis 7 games out, and the Phillies with a win will pull it within 6 games. St. Louis would be 6.5, and Houston would be 2.5 if this score holds up. And look, and even Florida would pull it within 7. They were beaten by the Mets tonight. And Dwight Gooden. Here's Bobby Munoz. Yeah, that's right. He's 3 for 3. The last 2 nights, he and Danny Jackson have gone 5 for 6 with 7 runs batted in. Munoz drove in runs in each of his first 2 at-bats tonight.
He's hacking again.
Barry throws him out. Well, at least they have now retired Munoz.
John, since we have a moment here, this may be a good time for me to say that, you know, Ryan Sandberg retired, one of the fine second basemen in Major League Baseball. And he decided to call it quits, and I know I'll miss watching him play. It was always enjoyable to see him play, and he was such a good player.
9 Gold Gloves.
I think I've always said that I think Bill Mazeroski was the best defensive second baseman I've ever seen, and Ryan Sandberg is probably one of the steadiest.
Billy Hatcher, 2 down, nobody on. Kind of a shock. Provoked a lot of comment around baseball. Could you have walked away from a guaranteed contract of millions of dollars, Joe?
Well, I think that's shouldn't even be in the equation, the money part of it, because you shouldn't be playing baseball for money anyway. You play the game because you love the game and because you enjoy playing it. And therefore, I don't even take that into consideration when they say, well, he walked away from so much money. If you're not having fun, the money doesn't really matter. Let's face it, you know, Willie Mays and all the great players of the past, they played the game for the love of the game and not for money. So how much you leave on the table is not as important as whether you enjoy playing the game and you leave when you don't enjoy it anymore. I think that's the way it should be. Everyone that walks away from the game leaves something on the table. So it's just a matter of how much you're talking about. I mean, anyone that retires walks away from something, some amount of money, and it's all relative, I guess, and what it means to you.
Billy Hatcher with his single, his 3rd hit. He's at first. Here's Duncan, 2 for 2 with 2 walks and 2 batted in. And the count goes to 1-1. Gil Heredia on the mound. Well, you wonder, I mean, Rhino obviously had given this a great deal of thought over a great period of time. It's a broken bat. Barry pulled out by Floyd for the put out. And you start wondering, is Rhino going to regret his decision here somewhere down the road? Good. ESPN will bring you first tee coverage tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. with a 3-man playoff in the U.S. Open. The American Lauren Roberts, the South African Ernie Els, and Colin Montgomery of Scotland live from the Oakmont Country Club at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. The playoff for the U.S. Open title right here on ESPN.
John, I don't know if you play golf. I try, and I tell you what, looking at that golf course today, I mean, that place, that is tough.
Yeah. I used to play, but I gave it up for the good of the game.
Oh.
It's a selfless gesture on my part.
The thing that was amazing to me is they could not stop the ball on the greens, and those guys can spin the ball, and they couldn't stop it.
In Cavilla, Sean Barry is retired for number 1. Well, we saw the Expos on Sunday Night Baseball on April 24th, and a nice thing there by Larry Walker, handed the ball to the young kid in the stand. Then he realized that it was only the 2nd out. Yeah, here you go, Mr. Walker. Thought you might want this back. And of course, that provoked a lot of comment all around the country. For Larry Walker, a Gold Glover, one of the best right fielders in the National League. And what an embarrassing moment for him. There's a high fly ball by Rondell White in Cavilla. Makes the catch. Out number 2. The national syndicated cartoon, Tank McNamara, ran this just a couple of weeks later, Joe. Guy coming in, I got it. Here, kid. Gee, thanks. I like to do that during nationally televised games. Makes me look like a regular guy. Yeah, that was only the second out. The runner is tagged, you idiot.
Well, talking to Larry Walker before the game, he said he got a lot of comments. This has been a very quick inning. We'll have to talk about it later. He said he got a lot of positive mail and stuff from fans around baseball and people, showing their support.
It was embarrassing, but he handled it pretty well. We're heading to the 8th inning, 12-0 Philadelphia. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is brought to you by Mobile Link Cellular Service. It's simply the way to communicate. And by Rude Scroll Compressors, the reason you should rely on Rude for your next air conditioner. Sunday Night Baseball. The Philadelphia Phillies. It's been like old times for the Phillies. The National League champions. In fact, still the reigning National League champions. Struggling the first couple of months of this year, but having a great weekend here in Montreal. John Kruk finally gets to face a right-hander.
But see, that's what happens. You face left-handers, you start to bail, and it continues with the right-hander. That first pitch, he bailed right out. But I'm sure John will make the adjustments necessary and start hitting line drives off both left-handers and right-handers.
0-2. Kruk 0 for 4, and he did drive in a run. The ground out in the 6th inning. 12-0 Philadelphia. They've had a 5-run inning and a 4-run inning in this game. And it's a ball. New center fielder has come on for the Expos. Lou Frazier in relief of Marquise Grissom. So Philly Bello giving some of his regulars a little rest now in a blowout game here. 2-2. 14 hits for the Phillies. 1 home run by Darren Dalton. Billy Hatcher 3 hits and 2 RBIs. Mariano Duncan 2 for 3, 2 batted in. Darren Dalton went 2 for 3 with a home run and a double, 2 batted in. And the pitcher Bobby Munoz 3 for 4 with 2 batted in. And John Kruk has his first hit of the game.
And that's interesting. He goes 0 for against the left-hander, and as soon as you throw a right-hander out there, he gets a base hit. Wasn't pretty, but it works.
We were wondering if they were just going to take him out of there and give him a little rest, but they owed him one, Joe, after all those at-bats against lefties.
That's pretty much the same swing. He's still pulling off a little bit. Kind of reminds me of when I played, John. I'd go into New York, and I'd face Kuzman and Matlack, and then when Seaver pitched, I was still bailing. Those 2 left-handers started me bailing. I couldn't stop.
Here's Incaviglia now. Foul tip. 1 strike to count. 12-0 Philly in the 8th inning. We're talking about Larry Walker and the embarrassing incident in our Sunday night telecast from Los Angeles back in April, handing the ball to the kid. And that, of course, that one play, that one moment had a long shelf life, Joe.
Yeah.
It made every highlight show. It was on SportsCenter, Baseball Tonight. Every station around the country ran it. And ran it and ran it and ran it. Then the cartoon and Tank McNamara. And people were talking about it. They wanted to know what the rule was. I mean, of course, Larry Walker, an outstanding right fielder, was in the middle of the embarrassing situation. 0-2 the count to Incaviglia. We talked to Walker about that. And as soon as we have a moment here with Incaviglia, an 0-2 count, we'll let you hear what Walker had to say about it. Strike 3 called to Incaviglia. Larry Walker talking about that embarrassing incident back in April.
I've heard a lot of comments lately about how I'm not intense when I'm out in the field and I'm not into the game. And I never knew where it came from until, I finally put it together that it came from that handing the ball to the kid with 2 outs. We're all making dumb mistakes. I remember Piazza rolled the ball back to the pitcher and the run scored. So we're all going to do stupid things in our careers that are going to stick out more than others. And that was just happened to be one of those times where that's what happened. But it's not any indication that I'm not in the game or I'm out there sleeping. I'm in every game except for that one.
Swinging strike by Todd Pratt makes it 1-1. He's batting for the first time in place of Darren Dalton, whom he replaced in the previous inning, or actually a couple of innings ago now. Pratt batting 143, 4 for 28.
And John, I will tell you this, there's not one player that's played a long time in the major leagues that has not forgotten how many outs there are at least once in his career.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
By the way, Darren Dalton, remember, got hit in the upper right arm back in the 6th inning, and he suffered a contusion of the upper right arm.
Well, if you get hit, you're always going to suffer contusion, John. You get hit on the weak part of your arm with a fastball, with a major league fastball.
We have a confirmation on that now.
Oh, okay. That's been confirmed.
2 down. This is Richard Griffin, the Expos Director of Public Relations, in the middle of the picture there. Everybody always talks about how today's players don't relate to the fans. Well, giving a fan the second out of an inning is pretty generous, I think. Yeah. Hey, he's the Public Relations Director, Joe. He's looking for the positive spin on things. And for Richard Griffin, also looking for the a good one-liner on anything and everything.
Kind of like Pat Williams of the Orlando Magic, right?
Yeah. Richard Griffin, guy who enjoys his work. Tony Longmire, 1 for 3. 3 batted in. He drilled a 3-run double to left center in the 6th inning. 1-1 the count. Kruk at first, 2 down in the 8th inning. It is 12-0 for the Phillies. In the dirt. Next Sunday, we'll see the Baltimore Orioles, and it looks like we'll see Mike Messina at the Sky Dome facing the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays, the top 5 hitters, all hitting at 300 or around. Ironically, the one who wasn't hitting 300 was Olerud, the man who was hitting 400 at this time last year. But he had 4 hits last night, I believe it was. This is the catch in left field by White, and that ends the inning. 1 hit, 1 left. We go to the last of the 8th. Floyd, Alou, and Heredia. 12-0 Philly. 12-0. The Phillies lead the Expos on Father's Day, 1994. And how about this for a Father's Day gift from Sunday Night Baseball? The all fathers and sons team here, Joe.
Yeah, everyone on there, their dad played in the major league. Ken Griffey, Barry Bonds, Moises Alou, great outfield. Dick Schofield, father Ducky Schofield, Roper Alomar, Segui,
Ed Sprague,
and of course Sandy Alomar behind the plate, and Todd Stottlemyre on the mound. And some of the other good players who didn't even make it. Danny Tartabull is the DH, but some of the other players whose fathers played in the major league didn't even make that team.
Yeah, how about Buddy Bell?
Yeah.
Of course, this is current.
Current. We're talking about Brian McRae, Brett Boone, Stan Javier, Ruben Amaro, Todd Hundley, Eduardo Perez, Derek May. All fathers played in the major league.
Base hit for Cliff Floyd past Tom Quinlan, who's just gone into play third base, replacing Duncan. And that'll bring up Moises Alou, playing for his dad here in Montreal. We talked to him about the comparisons made between himself and his dad.
I remember one day that he called my mom and he was mad because I didn't show, like, I had no desire to play. And he just told my mom that I was lazy and he wanted me to get better, but I had to change my attitude. And I really appreciate that because that kind of hit me, and I went back there and worked harder.
And of course, he's talking about Felipe's brother Jesus, who played, as you heard, a key role.
And he was the youngest of the Alous that played in the major league, Jesus. And we call Matty Alou Matty, but his real name is Mateo. And he's the one that won the batting title, and now, years later, Moises is contending for a batting title.
3 for 3 tonight and hitting .360 for the year now. Runner at first. Nobody out here in the 8th inning. The Expos are trailing 12-0. And that one gets right past Todd Pratt, enabling Floyd to move up a base. And it was ball 4 anyway, so he would have moved up.
And that's the first walk issued by Munoz, and they're going to immediately get someone up in the Phillies bullpen.
Heathcliff Slocum is the man heading out to the bullpen there. And a pinch hitter will be coming up as Padres visits with Munoz. A pinch hitter will come up for Heredia. It'll be Freddie Benavidez. Susalu, I remember 1973 was with Oakland for the last part of the season, and then got some big hits in the championship series and even in the World Series against the Mets that year. And Susalu was a guy who he'd walk up there, and no matter what kind of a pitch was thrown, he was likely to hit it.
Yeah.
Pitch up over his head, it might have hit the dirt. I mean, he'd swing at it and he'd hit it.
And he could really hit. Line drive hitter. Hard line drives.
2 men on, nobody out here in the 8th inning. Munoz has not gone this deep into a game before. He's never pitched more than 7 innings in a game in the past. And this year, 6 innings had been his top amount as a starter. He's into the 8th inning here. Got a shutout on top of that. But you wonder how much strength does he have left. Johnny Padres, the pitching coach for the Phillies, he had one of the great changeups of any pitcher when he pitched. And is a great teacher, and a great teacher of that changeup. Taught Frank Viola his changeup. It was a great one.
And that pitch has become the pitch of the 90s. Or we should say the middle 90s anyway.
Circle change. Double play ball. And they turn it. So Benavidez grounds into a double play with Floyd taking third. Stocker to Morandini to Kruk. 6-4 to 3. 2 down. And that's a big relief to Munoz. Runner at third, 2 down, and here is Tim Spear, the catcher, up for the first time. Spear hitting 200, 5 for 25. Came on in the 7th inning to give Darren Fletcher a little bit of a rest. And ball 1.
And Munoz is still throwing hard. That pitch 90 miles an hour, but it was up a little bit.
Deep and off the it's foul. Just off to the left of the foul ball. All right. Right down the line
into the corner, right?
Yeah, right down the line, and just next to the foul pole apparently. It ricocheted back, but not off the foul pole itself.
That was a bullet too, John. Take a look at it. It's a low line drive. And there. Well, I didn't have my glasses on, but it the focus there, but it was foul. We'll take the umpire's word for it. First of all, we'll take Clark Kellogg's.
They've got plexiglass there, plexiglass railing adjacent to the foul pole to hit off the plexiglass. 3-1 the count to Spear. See the kid sitting behind the plexiglass. Must have brought that over from the Montreal Forum.
Oh. And he scores.
Quinlan. And the shutout now is extended through 8 innings for Bobby Munoz, the man they got for Terry Mulholland. We go to the 9th inning, 12-0. 12-0 Phillies as we head to the 9th inning here from Olympic Stadium, Montreal. Now, join ESPN for the most comprehensive World Cup coverage tonight following SportsCenter at midnight Eastern. It's tape-delayed coverage of the Cameroon-Sweden match that's being played right now. Then, tomorrow afternoon at 3:55, Brazil will be taking on Russia. Brazil has won more World Cups than any other country, 3 of them. You'll catch all your World Cup action right here on ESPN. Don't miss that one tomorrow. Brazil, led by Romario, if he is healthy. That's the big mystery. As you see, John Wetland has come on to pitch now. The ace reliever, the closer out of the Expos bullpen, getting some work in tonight. Romario got hurt in their last tune-up a week ago in Fresno, California. Has not been seen at practice all week. The trainer for Brazil says that he's going to play. But even if he does, they're wondering how effective will he be. Kevin Stocker 1 for 4 facing John Wetland. And that's high for a ball. It's Peter Gammons in his Boston Globe. There's the new first baseman. Benavidez stays in to play first. And Floyd has moved from first out to right field. So Alou has left the game. And Wetland will hit in his spot, the number 3 spot in the order. Although I don't imagine he ever will hit. Peter Gammons in the Boston Globe today traced a trade. Interesting. Sergio Valdez and Nate Minchie traded by the Expos to Atlanta for Zane Smith. All right, you with me so far?
Yeah.
Then the Expos traded Zane Smith later to Pittsburgh for Moises Alou and Willie Green. Then Willie Green was later traded to Cincinnati for John Wetland. So they ended up for Sergio Valdez and Nate Minchie, Moises Alou, and John Wetland. Not too bad.
Well, I already knew that. Peter Pasquarelli told me that last week.
See, Peter never talks to me.
Oh.
There's a high drive to right field. Floyd going back. He was playing very shallow. Nice catch. You know, Felipe Alou said that Floyd's worked very hard at becoming an excellent first baseman, but he thinks that he could end up being a Gold Glove center fielder. So strong is he as an outfielder. We saw it there, didn't we?
Yeah, well, he got a good jump on the ball. He was playing very shallow, and he casually went back and made the catch. Doesn't take his eyes off the ball, tracks it down, makes the catch. Even used 2 hands.
Here's Mickey Morandini, 1 for 3. That 2-hand catch there, what that replay looked like was mandatory. Might not have been a catch without that second.
Well, you were talking about how good he was. I didn't want to point that out.
Foul away. John Wetland, they picked him up. Actually, he went from the Dodgers to Cincinnati for Eric Davis. Then from Cincinnati to Montreal. And Wetland has become one of the premier closers in this league. It's a lot of strikeouts. Although he got lit up here Friday night by the Phillies. They lit up both he and Mel Rojas.
Well, Rojas took over the closer role while Wetland was on the disabled list, and he was 8 for 8 during that stretch. And that's kind of interesting because he got very upset with his uncle, Philippe Alou, when he took him out of a ball game a week or so ago.
That's a fair ball. Morandini will get extra bases on this one. He's going to try for 3. The relay way offline from Tito Bell, and a triple for Mickey Morandini to go with his earlier double. And for the Phillies tonight, everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it. You're right. Well, I think the hitters have been a little bit embarrassed by the production of their pitching staff, so they want to make up for it. Good extension on that ball. The ball was down and away, and he just kind of pulled it in the corner. And a lot of people say, well, why are you going for a triple and the score is 12-0? Well, you don't think about that when you play the game. You just hustle. And that's what Morandini does here. And he has a triple.
Mickey Morandini 2 for 4 tonight, and here is a pinch hitter, Ricky Jordan, batting for Bobby Munoz. So Munoz will not be given the opportunity to get the complete game shutout. But from what we've seen tonight, he may have some opportunities in the future. Remember, he had not pitched longer than 6 innings in a game this year. Well, there comes run number 13 on the ground ball by Jordan. He's been having some hamstring problems. That's why he didn't start the game tonight with the left-hander going. But he picks up a run batted in here. 13-0 for the Phillies. That is their 31st run in this series.
And that's against the second best pitching staff in the National League, earned run average-wise.
They've had 31 runs and 47 hits in 3 games here this weekend. The team batting average for this series, .392. Here is Billy Hatcher. He's 3 for 4 tonight. Munoz, 8 innings, no runs, 8 hits, only 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. He did throw 119 pitches, and I suppose right there is the explanation for why he's gone.
So the most important statistic there for him was the 1 base on balls, and that came late in the ball game. In fact, it came in the 8th inning. So if he throws strikes, he has been able to win. But you mentioned earlier that has been his problem in the past. Although the last 2 times I've seen him pitch, he's been throwing strikes from the first pitch to the last.
Heathcliff Slocum is up in the bullpen, so he'll come on in the last half of the 9th inning. The Phillies 13, the Expos nothing. Next Sunday night will be at Skydome in Toronto. World champion Blue Jays will be taking on the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles 2 games back in the American League East behind the Yankees. But the Blue Jays 8 games out. They're still last place over there.
And the Blue Jays made a run at the Yankees when they played them a week ago there, but they've since fallen back a little bit.
Now the Blue Jays in the same thing in that wild card race. They'd be 6 games out of a wild card berth. They'll most likely be facing Mike Messina, a 9-game winner next Sunday night. Well, we're heading to the last of the 9th inning tonight. 13-0 Philadelphia. Coming up now, Sports Center, a Sunday conversation with Martina Navratilova. The Knicks and the Rockets, Game 6 in the NBA Finals and the U.S. Open final round. I think, though, that it's going to end up tied.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen the final round.
You'll have to tune in tomorrow morning at 10, 7 Pacific, to see the playoff round. 3-way tie, I think. Now, coming up Wednesday on ESPN, Ken Griffey Jr., Jason Maris, and the Babe. And he'll be taking on Tim Salmon, Shirley Davis, the California Angels. That's 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. Wednesday night baseball on ESPN. Don't miss a chance to see the kid right now. He is something else. Here is Will Cordero facing the new pitcher, Heathcliff Slocum. Stocker got it. Cordero is now 2 for 4 for the game. 1 away. The new pitcher, Heath Slocum, and he has been a real find for the Phillies. Done an excellent job.
Well, he was with the Cubs, and there's a lot of people have always felt he had good stuff. He just couldn't stay healthy, and he hasn't been able to produce, but he's doing a very good job for the Phillies so far.
He has worked hard. This is his 35?
Okay.
His 35th appearance in the 69th game.
And he's broken 2 back in his appearance so far.
Well, for Bell, at least he hit the ball. The last 3 times he didn't even make contact at all.
You're right. He was going for the golden sombrero, right?
Si, senor. Oui, monsieur. Jim Fregosi. He's starting to feel more like it was supposed to feel for Fregosi and the Phillies with this big weekend. With a win tonight, they'll move over 500 to 35-34. And within 6 games of the wild card, which is the downside of this whole wild card thing. Not that the Phillies have a shot at it, but we could be looking at a great race, Joe, in this division for first place between the Braves and the Expos, right? 2 best teams maybe in the whole league battling it out with one another. But the real race seems to be more like, is anybody going to beat one of them out for second place?
Well, I think that's interesting, but I think the Braves are still the class of the National League because they have the experience. The Expos are really a young team, and they're going to get better as the season goes along. They're the youngest team in baseball.
Strike 3, Sean Barry. And this one has ended, and for the Expos, it could hardly have ended worse. Jeff Becerro gets clobbered, his worst outing of the year. The Phillies win it 13-0 and get the sweep. And they're heading to to Pittsburgh. Now, next Sunday night, we'll be at the Sky Dome. The world champion Blue Jays, Paul Molitor and company, taking on Palmeiro, Ripken, and the Orioles, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Well, that does it. Happy Father's Day, everyone. The final score here, 13-0 for the Phillies. John Miller for Joe Morgan. Good night, everyone. SportsCenter is next.